Hello and welcome. Tonight, it's Eid al-Fitr. The president prays that Mambila Barracks parade ground uses occasion to recommit himself to the fight against terror. Also sends his first tweet since lifting of the microblogging platform suspension. 10 killed as three-story building collapses in a Butemeta area of Lagos. 24 people rescued. Erudite scholars share ideas with young businessmen and women on entrepreneurship at this year's May Day edition of the platform by the Covenant Nation. And hundreds of people trapped in steel plant in Mariupol as officials say Russia has resumed shelling in the area. Plus other international news and around the world in 5.
And on business news tonight, oil prices make a U-turn to trade in positive territory on supply shortage fears caused by a potential EU ban on Russian crude.
On sports news tonight, FIFA fines Nigeria $154,000 for pitch invasion by fans moments after the World Cup qualifier playoff against Ghana's Black Stars.
And from Abuja, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, orders enhanced air surveillance in strategic areas of Nigeria, deploys Nigeria Police Force choppers for aerial patrol.
And it's a joyful day for Muslims across the world, joining others to celebrate this year's Eid al-Fitr. Eid al-Fitr marks the end of Ramadan, the Muslim holy month of fasting, and is celebrated during the first 3 days of Shawwal, the 10th month of the Islamic calendar. Well, the celebration is a time of official receptions when friends visit one another, present gifts, among other activities. In Nigeria, the Muslim faithful have been observant with Eid prayers across the different parts of the country. And President Muhammadu Buhari joined other Muslim faithful at the parade ground, Mambila Barracks in Abuja, to mark the Eid prayers. According to the president, his government will boost productivity of farmers in the rainy season, just as he is prepared to boot out terrorists disturbing the peace of the nation. This also formed part of a series of tweets today by the president, his first since the federal government lifted the restriction on the microblogging platform. The microblogging site's operations had been suspended in Nigeria June 5th, 2021, after he deleted a tweet by the president, and the suspension lifted January 13th. Our State House correspondent, Gloria Mizuke, has more.
After 30 days of fasting, President Muhammadu Buhari joined Muslims who converge on the parade ground at the Mambila Barracks, Abuja, to observe the Eid prayers in conclusion of the month of Ramadan. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. In his message, the acting chief imam, Warrant Officer Dahiru Mohammed, in a khutbah after the prayers, harped on the need for mutual cooperation, for genuine repentance from sin, love for one another, forgiveness, tolerance, persistent prayers to Allah, which is crucial to ending all adversities of life. Ahead of the 2023 elections, there are also special prayers towards stability and national unity. In a chat after the prayers, the president, whose thoughts are clearly fixated on the issue of insecurity, reminds that the mandate to end the terrorist regime remains key.
Heads of services, Army, Navy, Air Force, Inspector General of Police, and so on, are very much aware of the situation and their duties to know where the terrorists are and eliminate them.
After 2 years since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, the president once again hosts guests in the traditional Salah homage at the presidential villa hours after. About 100 guests, including the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, members of cabinet, leadership of the National Assembly, traditional rulers, religious leaders, among others, graced the occasion. Here, the president gives more assurance that the Boko Haram menace will not spiral out of control.
I have directed security agencies to ensure quick and safe recovery of all victims of kidnapping. I urge the railway management to immediately set up a situation room for the coordination of the rescue mission and for a minute-by-minute engagement with the families of the captives. This should ease their pain and anxiety as we push the military to finding a safe return to their families of all those victims.
Ahead of the 2023 elections, government officials underscore that self-centered politics cannot be synonymous with progress.
Let no sentiments derail any of our programs and projects, because you need to have a Nigeria first if you are running for to take over government at whatever level. You need to have a country, you need to have a stable country, you need to have a peaceful country in the first place.
Now, in keeping faith with the mandate to improve upon lives and security, the present administration is seeking to foster hope that Nigerians can indeed transcend beyond its challenges, if only the country can move beyond ethnocentric behaviors and practices. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuki, Channels Television News.
And still in the north, Muslims turned out in large numbers to celebrate Eid al-Fitr. The National Chief Imam of the Islamic Brotherhood of Nigeria called on Nigerians not to relent in praying for the nation until issues of insecurity are reduced to the barest minimum. Speaking in Abuja shortly after leading the Eid prayers, he admits that the security agencies are doing their best, but says they need to do more for Nigeria to be fully secured.
Muslims in Abuja make their way to different prayer grounds to observe the Eid al-Fitr prayers, marking the end of the fasting period of the holy month of Ramadan. From the national prayer ground along the airport route to other prayer grounds in the city, Islamic clerics lead other worshippers in these special prayers. The National Chief Imam of the Islamic Brotherhood of Nigeria dwells on the need for more prayers for the country.
The first thing is to pray, continue to pray to Allah to ensure that our minds come together when it comes to prayer, and then we direct the prayer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to oversee us security-wise, and then we can now ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide our leaders so that they will also know what to do when it comes to security.
In Kogi State, the governor leads members of his cabinet for the special prayers, asking citizens to pray for the government and place national interest ahead of self.
Continue to cooperate with all law enforcement agencies. We today, in the position of authorities, are doing our best to ensure that there's peace, unity, and prosperity. And I urge each and every one of our people to continue to cooperate and pray for the government and all of our leaders and for our country, and let there be peace.
At the end of the prayers in Bauchi State, the governor promises to improve security and the welfare of his people.
We need to really look inward to provide safety and security for our people, to provide safety networks for our people, not just flagrant implementation of policies and programs that have no human face.
Messages about security and the need for peaceful coexistence resonate across the north central, northeastern and northwestern states as Muslims offer special prayers to mark the end of Ramadan.
I pray, as is enshrined in the Quran, that we will continue to maintain what we have learned during the month of Ramadan, so that in Nasarawa State, and indeed in Nigeria, we will continue to live in peace with one another, we will continue to live with love with one another, we will continue to live for the prosperity of our state.
We shall appreciate that we have done and prayed for our better economic condition and return to normalcy in our dear country and state, and show support and understanding for the government effort. I want to assure the entire people of our state that our commitment to the security of their lives and property will remain our priority.
We are gradually going to an era of politics, and I think we should also move in with the spirit that we have learned during the fasting period, that we should respect one another and play according to the game.
It's a pre-election year, and this explains why the governor of Katsina State is urging adherents to vote good leaders into office in 2023.
Allah will guide us, like the Imam said, that we select and elect leaders that will better our lives. Like I have always been saying, the success of this administration is bringing leaders who will do better than us.
As Muslims wind down activities that mark the Ramadan season with the special prayers, many look forward to a better tomorrow as they beseech God to answer their prayers.
And over in the south, worshippers gather from Lagos, Ogun, Oyo and Edo states to thank God for seeing them through 30 days of fasting, as well as praying for the unity of the country.
Muslims gather at the Obalende praying ground as the Ramadan fast is over. Among those present here is the All Progressives Congress presidential aspirant, Bola Tinubu. He prays that unity and peace will be the binding force in the country.
We should respect one another, love each other, unite the country, stop all acts of banditry and instability.
Still in Lagos, adherents say they will be guided by the lessons of the fasting season.
Fasting teaches us to be perseverance, to be more closer to our God, and to show kindness and love to our neighbors.
And in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, Muslims converged on the Lantoro praying ground to observe the Eid prayer. The former governor of the state, Ibukunle Amosun, the Nigerian High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, and the Chief of Staff to Governor Dapo Abiodun joined other Muslims to perform the two obligatory prayer to mark the end of Ramadan. In Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, Agodi praying ground is a place Muslim faithful gathered for the Eid prayer. In Edo State, the chief imam of Benin City Central Mosque leads a delegation of Muslims to the government house to meet with Governor Godwin Obaseki. The governor congratulated them for the successful completion of the Ramadan and reminds them on the need to get their permanent voter cards ready for next year's election.
In mosques, in worship centers, ensure that people register. Make sure that most of your followers have voters' cards, because you cannot change anything, you cannot continue to complain if you are not participating.
For 30 days, Muslims embarked on a spiritual exercise, and at the end of it, they converged on various prayer grounds to pray and make merry afterwards.
In part two, after the break, our report series on May Day edition, that is, of the platform with senior pastor Pojo Imade and other erudite scholars speaking on entrepreneurship and growing young businesses. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. It's Adil Fitri. The president prays that Mambila Barracks parade ground uses occasion to recommit himself to the fight against terror. Also sends his first tweet since the lifting of the microblogging platform suspension. 10 killed as three-story building collapses in the Butemeta area of Lagos. 24 people rescued. Erudite scholars share ideas with young businessmen and women on entrepreneurship at this year's May Day edition of the platform by the Covenant Nation. Hundreds of people trapped in a steel plant in southern Ukrainian city of Mariupol as officials say Russia has resumed shelling in the area. It is the 31st edition of the platform put together by the Covenant Nation in Lagos, an event which has remained a rallying point for knowledge sharing and network. Held at the main auditorium of the Covenant Nation at Igomu, speaker after speaker not only proved their mettle but also impact great ideas on participants.
The businesses that impact on those 5 things are shaping culture.
Entrepreneurs and budding entrepreneurs converge in this hall for the May the 1st edition of the platform, with this year's theme bordering on building successful businesses on the current socio-economic climate.
A party of good people is also...
9 speakers share the stage, each discussing their experiences and secrets in building and sustaining businesses. A transformation strategist and socio-entrepreneur, Kule Shorion, underscores the need for collaboration and the role it plays in business management.
There's nothing called enemy anywhere. The idea of enemy is a very safe conversation amongst the masses. At the highest level of power, there's collaboration between good, evil, and God. Because what is good is not necessarily God. All that is God is good, but there's so much more in good that is not God at all.
He also considers diaspora engagement and ideas sharing as other needed assets in nation building.
In taking control, it's not through politics, guys. It's productivity, not through government, but through people.
Jumoke Adenowo, an architect, makes call for self-discovery and relearning.
And we have a whole generation who have subscribed to propaganda that has taught them that they don't have what it takes to solve their own problems. And Africa must evolve its own solutions.
Leke Alda is the founder and principal at the Alda Consulting. He engages attendees on some basic things to look out for in client hunting.
Chances are that if you meet someone, you tell them you want to start a business, that they will discourage you. They don't mean to. Some are afraid for themselves. Some think that you're about to leave them behind. Some feel sorry for you. Some have failed in business. But let the market be the judge of your efforts.
Every year, the platform provides an opportunity for beginners and young entrepreneurs to learn new things, and this May edition is not different. With the guests spending long hours listening to the erudite speakers, it is expected that what they've learned will help create businesses that will stand the test of time.
And still on the platform 2022, how to build a successful business in today's climate, long-term thinking in business, service and sacrifice, topics other speakers touched on to encourage entrepreneurs attain their desired goals.
Entrepreneurship for these speakers at the platform 2022 is faith-based, and for anyone willing to embark on the adventure, certain pointers must be cemented in the heart.
Don't overcompensate yourself. And that's the problem with the entrepreneurs.
Yvonne Johnson, a financial service expert and the co-founder and CEO of Indicina, touches on ways entrepreneurs can build successful businesses in today's climate.
Technology enabled a virtual world. You know, we had the pandemic, we couldn't have physical interaction. And technology allowed this virtual world to exist. And what that meant is that physical interactions were replaced by Zoom, MixLR, YouTube, right? Digital payments for us as business replaced cash, right? Because that was no longer an option. But see, one of the interesting things is that once you start to live virtually, physical borders are no longer an issue.
How far do you want to go and grow as an entrepreneur is what the second speaker, Niyi Adesonya, CEO of Fifth Gear Plus, is asking. The leadership and performance expert hints on several key factors to succeed, including the importance of associating with the key people.
Your mentor must supply you wisdom. Your mentor must be able to get their hands dirty in your case. Number 3, your mentor must know the heart of strategy and go along with you. That is the external person. And then they must be able to go to war with you.
All of these processes can only succeed when principles that are divinely approved are attached. That's what experience has taught the next speaker, the founder of Future Africa, a platform that provides capital, coaching, and community for mission-driven innovators.
I don't have a lot to say, but I'm just here to present my own testimony. You know, a lot of us in this business environment, we justify a lot of stuff. You know, justify a lot of things that are unethical. And what God is telling us, quite frankly, is that it's not even enough to be ethical. What God is asking us to do, particularly in this season, is to build businesses, sacrifice to build businesses that will serve His people in these climates.
Words are powerful with the ability to transform the mind, and these speakers have used the platform to the best of their ability to encourage those who hitherto were in need of direction.
And of course, it didn't just end there. Other speakers like the co-founder of Andala, former managing director of Flutterwave, and the deputy managing director of Falcon Corporation also shared their vital ingredients for successful businesses.
Whether we like it or not, most of us in this room were willing victims of what is called confirmation bias, and PP spoke to that earlier. A situation where we just resonate with the kind of data and information that is more readily available. The problem with confirmation bias is that it constrains your thinking, and it also reduces your willingness to press past challenges and seek to make a difference. And here's the thing. Some psychologists actually say that confirmation bias is like you know, trying to find this balance between justifying yourself and seducing others to your opinion. So it's very comfortable for us to just go around and say, Nigeria now, wow, this country, you have to be your own local government, blah, blah, blah. And that's all we're seeing. And yet in this country, we are seeing unicorns being birthed in the same context. So I submit to you that those who are going to win first in their minds. That's what I want to put out there first. So my company is still here after almost 28 years, and this is because, you know, we had a global outlook from the beginning, like I said. If you've heard me speak, you've heard me say something that I looked at it, it sounds funny, but very true, and I asked myself, the people that formed Coca-Cola, Mercedes-Benz, honestly, I don't have their recent pictures, but I'm sure none had two heads. And I also said to myself, because I work with my husband, that these were family businesses that have now transcended generations and have a global impact significantly. So if they could do it, I certainly can.
A lion is a carnivorous animal. It does not eat grass. It's not herbivore. How can a lion eat grass? When I entered this industry, they said, why are you wearing black? You must be a part of a cult. No cult. I'm a child of God. My 3 disciples are in this hall. We broke all the rules because we're like the lion. We adjust to every situation. There is no box. If you're in this hall, you see a box, stand up and stand on your box. How can a lion eat grass? The lion adjusts. If you are thinking normal, you are in the wrong hall.
And for the senior pastor of the Covenant Nation and convener of the platform, Pastor Pojo Yemade, in his earlier address, he says teamwork is a catalyst for growth and business development.
Thank you so much for joining, whether you're in the live audience or you're joining us from your home.
This is the first time since COVID-19 struck that aspiring and established entrepreneurs, business leaders and professionals, amongst others, have converged on the Covenant Nation Church Auditorium in Igomu, Lagos for the 31st edition of the platform.
So let us play it at night.
The platform May Day edition, now in its 15th year, is an event designed to facilitate growth in the areas of personal capacity, productivity and national development. And the convener, Pastor Pojo Yemade, started by expatiating on the theme of the program, where he listed teamwork as a major catalyst for organizational growth.
So the first law here in leading an organization to making it more impactful and effective is that you win as a team or you lose by default. In other words, if everybody within the organization are operating with their own individual talents and skills,
without having a corporate vision and operating as a team, that organization will lose.
Pastor Poju notes that besides a long list of how to build a team, the first place to start is to provide a vision.
When God said man was one, wasn't when they were all speaking the same language, was when they had a clear-cut objective and vision that was right before them. So you unite the hearts of people by giving a clear vision, something beyond, all right, the ordinary, and then the imaginative abilities we saw there of people within the organization now begins to work, and creativity starts happening within that assembly.
This year's theme of the platform, which deals with how to build a successful business in today's economic climate, is expected to inspire entrepreneurs, business leaders, startups, corporate professionals and leaders to defy the odds in building thriving businesses and a better nation.
And it was quite a packed day for the platform and members of the Covenant Nation. Of course, we wish them the very best, also as they plan for the next edition. Still ahead on the news at 10, Inspector General of Police Usman Alkali Baba orders enhanced air surveillance in strategic areas in Nigeria, deploys Nigeria Police Force choppers for aerial patrol. Please join us again. We're off now to our Abuja studios where Markwe Ogun Yusuf has some more stories. Hello, Markwe.
Hello, Millicent. Eid Mubarak to you and all our viewers. Well, while our Muslim brothers and sisters celebrate, the nation's security is receiving a boost as the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, has ordered the deployment of 4 choppers to enhance aerial surveillance in strategic areas of the country. In a statement by the force spokesman, Muyiwa Adejobi, the deployment is to support operational men to intensify patrol and ensure adequate national security. The IGP says this demonstrates the commitment to continually provide security with the required logistics and funds to facilitate the security operations across the country. In politics, the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Comrade Ayuba Waba, would like to see a crop of new politicians take over from the old breed after the 2023 elections. He's asking Nigerians to effectively use their voters' card in making the required change. Mr. Waba questions why governors who have failed to pay salaries, implement the minimum wage, or pay pensions and gratuities would want to be president of Nigeria. He was speaking to our political correspondent, Terry Kumi.
If you look at the character of some of those people that have declared, I think they are not worth even considering. If we're a serious country, they are not considering in the first place. And there must be some consideration for persons that are vying for that office, actually there's some minimum that they need to have in terms of their experience, in terms of their qualification, in terms of what they can deliver, and in terms of, in concrete terms, organizations that have managed, what have been their scorecard. Those are some of the considerations elsewhere. You don't just come from the blues because you want the issue of zoning. You don't just suddenly arise from the blues and say, well, I also have to be in the ring. It makes the process a bit clumsy. And people are laughing at us. If minimum wage of 30,000, you could not implement in your state, as we speak, it's a law. It's backed by the Constitution. You have sworn to uphold the provision of the Constitution. You have not been able to implement 30,000. What business do you have to come and say you want to preside over Nigeria? Or you didn't pay gratuity of retirees for the past 7 years, despite being a state that is well endowed, and your pensioners are protesting, and you send people to arrest them, and you say you want to preside over this. Are we a serious country?
Well, for the full interview, do watch Political Paradigm at noon tomorrow. Now to some more politics. Some members of the People's Democratic Party in Anambra State have been protesting what they call a sham of World Congress, which according to them failed to hold because the team sent to organize the event were not equipped for it, resulting to the cancellation of the exercise. The members are challenging why the 5-man Congress panel did not present the original results sheets for the Congress.
Members of the People's Democratic Party in Anambra State are here for an interface with members of the panel conducting the World Delegates Congress ahead of the party's presidential primary later this month. After hours of waiting, news filter in that the exercise has been postponed. A day after, they converge again in this room. Before today's exercise, some members request to cite the original document for the conduct of the election. It turns out to be a photocopy document. The panel chairman gives reason for the photocopy.
We bring the original sheets here because of the security reason, but we have it. That's why we come with the photocopy. If the people come back from field, in the presence of everybody, we enter everything and sign. That's it. That's all I can say.
But that explanation did not go down well with some party members who accused the 5-man panel of underhand dealing. A shouting match then ensues.
Let him go now. He will not go. Let him send somebody.
Outside the hall, things go more rowdy. Not even an appeal by the state chairman can save the situation. And after a long argument, the exercise is cancelled.
The ad hoc delegate election was already scheduled to take place on Saturday, April 30th, 2022, and was late rescheduled by the chairman of the committee due to his late arrival from Abuja. Is hereby cancelled.
And the photocopy result sheet handed over to the party's administrative secretary.
Meanwhile, in response, the chairman of the PDP ad hoc delegate Congress election for Anambra State, Jibrin Ahmed, says that the cancellation of the election was done under duress. He stated that the committee members were locked down by some politicians allegedly forced to hand over the result sheets and do a letter and press conference cancelling the election. Still ahead on the news at 10, oil prices make a U-turn to trade in positive territory on supply shortage caused by potential European Union ban on Russian crude. That's on Business News. Do join us again.
We continue in Lagos, where it's been a sad start to the day for residents of Ibadan Street and its environs in the Butemeta area after 10 people lost their lives following a building collapse at number 24. Emergency services were able to rescue 24 people. Meanwhile, state officials are evacuating occupants of another building located 200 meters away, which they fear could soon collapse anytime. Let's move to some business news. Here's Tinyola Shibowale.
Thanks a lot, Millicent. Welcome to Business News. Oil prices have reversed course to trade in positive territory today. Unfair supply might slow down due to a potential European Union ban on Russian crude. Around half of Russia's 4.7 million barrels per day of crude exports go to the EU, supplying about a quarter of the bloc's oil imports in 2020. Brent crude futures were up 0.37% to $107.51 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose 0.4% to $105.16 a barrel. Meanwhile, sources at the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries says the cartel and its allies may stick to existing deals and agree another small output increase for June at an upcoming meeting on May the 5th. Late last month, the group known as OPEC Plus agreed to maintain the existing agreement of a 5% output increase, continuing its firm stance on output held since December 2020. The significant drop in the number of micro, small and medium enterprises within the last 4 years has been attributed to numerous factors, especially the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as other economic headwinds. The Director, Enterprise Development and Promotion at the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, who made this known on our Business Morning program today, also highlighted how these factors heavily impacted on MSMEs in the country.
MSMEs are very key to development efforts in this country. They contribute to job creation, wealth creation, and poverty alleviation. Of course, SMEDAN as an agency has been partnering with the National Bureau of Statistics to reel out these statistics for MSMEs in this country. In 2010, it was about 17 million. In 2013, it was about 34 million. In 2017, it was about 41.6 million. And then recently, as at 31st December 2020, it came down to 39.6 million, which is about 4.5% drop in the figure of 2017. Of course, the issues concerning the drop is very, very clear, because within this period between 2017 and 2020, there was this major outbreak, the COVID-19 issue. It affected businesses across the world, especially in Nigeria, because most of the businesses are dealing with contact persons, physical markets, and so on and so forth. So when the COVID-19 came on board, there were lockdown, there were insecurity, there were banditry, terrorism, and the rest and the rest. So this affected some of these businesses. Some of them closed their shops. Some of them lost turnover, they lost markets, and so on and so forth. So mainly issues related to COVID-19, terrorism, insecurity really affected the lives of these small businesses, and most of them had to close down because of this issue. So that was why there was that drop of about 2 million, from 41.6 million to 39.6 million, which is about a 4.5% drop.
And that's Business News Tonight. It's back to Millicent for the rest of the news at 10.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Teniola. Ukrainian officials say hundreds of people remain trapped in a steel plant in the city of Mariupol, despite some managing to leave on Sunday. Here's Salman Pusa with more on this and other international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Around 100 people have been evacuated from a besieged steel plant in the southern city of Mariupol. Civilians being helped by members of the Azov regiment through the rubble and onto buses. Evacuees had been sheltering there with fighters for weeks. Hundreds more civilians remain trapped, and President Zelensky says he hopes further evacuations can take place soon. Meanwhile, President Zelensky has warned that the conflict could trigger a food crisis affecting countries around the world. Speaking to Australian news programme 60 Minutes, Zelensky said his country could lose tens of millions of tons of grain because Russia had blockaded its ports on the Black Sea. Ukraine is one of the world's top exporters of grain and other food products. The US House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi has met with the Polish President Andrzej Duda at the presidential palace in Warsaw. Pelosi's office issued a statement saying that the US delegation came to Poland to send an unmistakable message to the world that America stands firmly with our NATO allies in our support for Ukraine. In the meeting, officials discussed how they can further work together to support Ukraine. It's after Pelosi met Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kiev on Sunday. Israel's foreign minister has denounced an unforgivable remarks by his Russian counterpart that Nazi leader Adolf Hitler had Jewish blood. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov made the comments to try and justify Russia's portrayal of Ukraine as Nazi, despite the fact its president is Jewish. Israel's foreign ministry summoned Russia's ambassador for clarification and demanded an apology. Nazi Germany murdered 6 million Jews in the Holocaust in World War II. Mr. Lavrov made the remarks in an interview on Italian TV days after Israel marked Holocaust Remembrance Day, one of the most solemn occasions in the Israeli calendar. Muslims across the Middle East have attended Eid prayers, one of the first customs that marks the end of the fasting month of Ramadan. Thousands of worshippers flock to mosques in their capitals, reciting ritual scriptures, praying and greeting each other. Celebrations are held all over the world where people celebrate with their families and their loved ones. Cities across the world are clearing up after protests turned violent during May Day marches and celebrations yesterday. Here, Chilean police clashing with demonstrators during a protest in the streets of Santiago. Police fired water cannon and tear gas as protesters threw stones and Molotov cocktails. Meanwhile, riot police faced flames and thick clouds of smoke as violence erupted in the French capital, Paris. And scuffles broke out as dozens of protesters tried to reach Istanbul's main Taksim Square. They were demonstrating against economic hardship caused by inflation. The airliner Qantas has announced it will begin operating non-stop flights from Sydney to London and New York from 2025. Australia's national carrier said it had purchased a new fleet of Airbus A350 jets capable of direct flights to any city in the world. The first Sydney to London flights will depart in late 2025 and take about 20 hours, making them the world's longest passenger flights. The route, launched in 1947, once took 58 hours and 7 stops.
This is a big day for Qantas. It's a big day for Australian aviation. I think it's a big day for world aviation.
New Zealand and Hong Kong have both reopened their borders to more international visitors after a pandemic lockout of more than 2 years. Travellers touched down at Auckland Airport, many to emotional reunions with families and friends. Meanwhile, Hong Kong reopened to non-residents on Sunday. That's the first time in 2 years that travellers have been allowed to enter the financial hub since the pandemic began. And 3 new photographs of Princess Charlotte have been released to mark her 7th birthday. The pictures were taken by her mother, the Duchess of Cambridge, in Norfolk, and they show her sitting among bluebells and hugging her pet Cocker Spaniel, Orla. She is 4th in line to the throne and is the only daughter of Catherine and the Duke of Cambridge. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. World Football Governing Body FIFA has imposed a $154,000 fine on Nigeria following unruly behavior of fans at the Moshood Abiola Stadium moments after the FIFA World Cup qualifier against the Black Stars of Ghana on March the 29th. As part of disciplinary sanctions by FIFA, the Super Eagles will now play one match behind closed doors. Liverpool's quest to win an unprecedented quadruple of trophies continue as they face Spanish side Villarreal in the second leg of the UEFA Champions League semi-finals on Tuesday night. That's the second leg, of course. Liverpool beat Villarreal 2-0 at Anfield in the first leg and have won every away game in the competition this season. But Villarreal coach Unai Emery has an 84% success rate as a coach in the European knockout ties since 2010. UEFA has banned Russia from the Women's European Championship in July and from participating in qualifying for next year's World Cup following the country's invasion of Ukraine. Portugal will replace Russia for the July tournament in England, having lost to them in the qualifying playoffs, and will join the Netherlands, Sweden and Switzerland in Group C. And that's a wrap on sports news.
And the main news again. As Muslim faithful celebrated Eid al-Fitr today, the president, who prayed at the Mambila Barracks parade ground, used the occasion to recommit himself to the fight against terror, also sent his first tweet since the microblogging platform was suspended. Also today, erudite scholars shared ideas with young businessmen and women on entrepreneurship at this year's May Day edition of the platform by the Covenant Nation. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Eid Mubarak.